There was, I wouldn't say this was like completely BLG sucking, so it's not as bad as the TES situation, but we'll talk about drafts. We'll talk about a lot of things. I love how I always start the stream like as the ad break starts. Like, gotta keep the consistency up. During this game, you're setting up how each team approaches neutrals differently, and how Genji kind of ended up recognizing that and using that as an adaptation for how they were drafting and how they were approaching the series game to game. Whereas BLG kind of kept doing the same thing with progressively worse drafts. So that was sick. You'll see here, basically what's happening is you have Knight, Bin recalling last possible second, rotating on this side because this is where BLG are strong. Also, Knight has TP and Bin does not, so this will be a very common rotation. I have to put it on 2x speed so that you guys can see this, and it's an under 60-second clip. And then you have Jen using that rotation because notice the fact that Knight is going to wait until the last possible minute to get this. So this completely eliminates the possibility, and we talked about this before in the dynamic with like Fly and PSG, where Fly will do this and PSG stopped doing this. And I think this is like legitimately the riskier way to play, but usually BLG, because they have champs like Kalista, they have champs like Ashe, which grant vision for basically free. They usually get away with it because you can't play for retake. Like, don't get me wrong, when I talk about playing for retakes on neutrals, it is not objectively bad. It is just harder, okay? It is just harder. And you have to have like really good trigger pull, really good reaction. You have to have like angles for getting into flanks. And have basically, you want to play out, get shallow vision first, then rotate to top side, then make sure you still have shallow wards in place, have TP for flank, or allow someone to push out and get into a flank position. Like, there are a lot of variables that make really good retakes. And retakes are like one of the best, somewhat like the most enjoyable macro experiences to watch because of all of the things that go into it, and the goal is like a fight, so you get to see a fight after too. So retakes can be like a very enjoyable thing to watch. But the problem is that the way that BLG have approached retakes and the way that Genji approached the neutrals in the opposite way, which is we're always going to be on it first. We're always going to rotate it to it first. We don't care if we lose like 8 plates. We don't care if we lose like 8 tower. We will always get to the Drake first. And you will have to face check us. That's the way Gen approach it, right? So they don't play for retakes. They play for being on the objective first, pulling it, and forcing you to face check into them, or forcing you to try to play retake. But look at the setup here, where Lahens is on this window. So you could come in from this side, but they'll show... I want to see like pre-fog again. So this would be like the angle of approach, right? And they even have a ward here. They even have hawk shot so they can see this. But instead of taking this angle of approach, when a part of the reason why I think they don't take it is because they don't know Lahens and Keen have like specifically walked over here. They have a pink here, so it's hard to know like specifically where they are. Like, they could be here, where my cursor is. They could be in a myriad of locations. But yeah, it's the death bush or the evil bush, as I call it, because the death bush I think is like copyright fanatic or something. If you're face checking from this angle, obviously like Lahens' like biggest thing this entire series was body blocking, right? So he's tanking the Ashe arrow, and then you have Knight TPing in off this top wave that's pushed in all the way so that they have maximized their economy, and Genji will lose from this. You have been able to come in and look for flank from this side, and then they look for this. But because Lehen stalled this and they didn't have perfect vision on this side, or didn't properly use hawk shots to get vision into the bush, whatever you want to blame it on, because of those factors, they end up losing the Drake, and they don't play for fight after. So they just play for wave. So that's basically like the dynamic of that set the pace or set the tone for the entire series. And it was how BLG adapts to this dynamic, or how Genji, I guess I should say, how BLG doesn't adapt to this dynamic and how Genji adapts to this dynamic, that ends up controlling most of the game, in my opinion. So after this one, like you can see a successful sort of retake from BLG comparatively. So Bin is basing on bot side. We know basically where we know that Jen will probably push this wave out, top and show, and then we can play for mid control because we have a Kelsey that's ahead. So no Ash arrows, no catch. So this would have been a good catch because then Genji would have had to split off and collapse here to defend. And not get the wave, which would have stalled even more. If you notice, it's a minute 30 until Drake spawn. I have to 2x speed this because it just barely fits the parameters. We base here, and then of course, unfortunately, we have to watch the replay, which makes this even longer. And then Knight is on top of the wave. Trophy can't push out because he's not a psycho like Knight, and he's gonna play the Orianna like respectfully to catch wave. But as soon as Ari gets this wave, Camille can show on both sides. So in theory, that's how you're playing this. Lahens is going to catch this wave, and instead of showing immediately, Ben is doing this camp. And doing this other camp, and now he's gonna show on the wave. On's already used Hawk Shot. Jen had this, Orianna takes this, and then you would think, okay, this is a great timer right here for BLG to set up vision proactively. So they already set up some vision on the other side of the pit, of the Drake pit with On, right? This is where they will get like full control. They'll rotate in and get full control. But notice Knight's positioning. He's not going to the dragon. He's going back for another top wave. So he shows on this top wave. As soon as he shows on this top wave, and then BLG also decides to recall mid here. And so they seed the push when normally, like, this close to Drake spawn, you're contesting mid push. And Jen TP here, get vision down and get full control. So again, BLG are playing for retake. This is obviously very intentional because they had a window where they could have just taken full control. But they chose to prioritize resets, item buys, getting another top wave, and making sure there's no counterplay. They basically chose to prioritize economy, and they said it's okay, we can retake. Notice here in this situation, because they did get an early setup of wards, this is important, the retake position is a lot better. Knight doesn't TP to these flank wards here, but in theory, like he could have, if they weren't concerned that there would be wards here and here, which there are, which is like really good setup from Jen. So he doesn't want to walk over those. Like they also, because they have those wards, they saw where Jen kind of put the wards. And then you see also, like key here is Lahens is like having to zone on this side, thinking Ben will like E over the wall here. And he's only just TP'd in, so he's not zoning in the same spot. I think in this situation, he's scared that if he walks up, that Ben will like get onto his carries because they know Ben's over this wall. So Lahens is still trying to zone here. The Asher ult hooks because Lahens is trying to zone on both sides, and because they've split like in this setup, right, and forced both front lines to kind of try to zone at the same time. They know that the only real tanky member is Lahens, so there aren't other people to deny BLG entry into the pit. And then BLG are able to get this retake off without a hitch. So this is like, if it goes well for BLG, what it looks like when they're playing their setup here. So basically what you can learn from this is like this retake strategy is easier if 1, you have a front line, 2, you have champions that like get easy vision, and 3, if enemy team doesn't have like an easy way to block you out of the pit when you're looking for retake angle. Also, if you have like early vision set up like 2 wave rotations before, so we'll say 2 wave rotations to mean like the wave before the one that spawns on Drake. Sorry if that's like very confusing. I could make a spreadsheet and explain this in detail if you're bored. I was thinking about talking about the draft at the end to explain like the compositional dynamic of what happens, but I think for you to fully understand the compositional dynamic of what happens, we should talk about the draft first. So we'll do that. Let's take a look at the draft, boys and girls and others. Hi. We're looking at the draft. All right, we are looking at the draft. We love looking at the drafts. The draft is my least favorite thing to analyze, but when I feel like your teams are just like completely fundamentally misunderstanding the entire dynamics of how drafts work, you have to unfortunately analyze the draft. Okay, so this is like the same kind of style of draft that BLG have been drafting all series. Including game one. And by that I mean this is like a dynamic, all in. You have like face check angles. So you have Cassante, who's like really good face check fun line. You have good zone control for retakes. You have some ability to get vision. With Callista, you have easy engage on any like out of position target. In theory, you have some split push up to this point. That's about to change. You no longer have the ability to win sides anywhere. Thank you. Have a good day. So, what is important about retake? 1 is side control. 2 is about vision. 3 is good pick or like engage, right? So these are all, and then ability to face check. So all of these things are important for a retake. If BLG are going to continue to play objectives on a retake angle and not to set up initially, this draft is absolute ass. Because you can face check with Cassante, you can engage, but you get so completely outranged and so completely zoned. Maokai ult, Nami ult, they basically, as soon as someone walks in, you trigger these, and then your bot lane can't get into a fight. So you can let, like, Vi or Cassante or even Vex engage onto a target, but your bot lane is never hitting anything. You have 0 follow-up, you have 0 anything, right? For anyone who engages first. Other thing, you get completely ridiculously outranged by damage. Lucian culling is actually really huge. You throw out a Maokai ult, or a Nami ult, and you Lucian culling, and someone has to back out of the fight instantly without even being able to approach. Corki package is great zone control, but also long range poke. Love it. Third, you lose both side lanes. Guys, this draft is atrocious. This Vex pick is the worst thing I've ever seen in my entire life. The only way that you could play the game with this draft is if you have positional advantage on neutrals before they spawn. One person walks in because their face check is like relatively low. Like they have Maokai. Maokai is like a tank, but he's not a super duper tank like he was before. And you're going to force out the TFLs for them to face check you. You're going to force the Corki to like basically base package on Drake spawn and then suicide in, these types of things. So maybe from that perspective, the BLG comp is functional, but tell me, 1, have BLG ever played the game like that in their entire life? And 2, the other thing I need you to tell me is how are they going to get on the dragon first when they lose both side lanes and can't walk up mid? What's the mid champ you can remedy the problem with? I mean, yeah, LeBlanc's better. People don't like picking LeBlanc into Corki, but I think that's like a little fake. If you have LeBlanc Vi, you can win mid. I think the biggest thing is if you can legit play like Azir is even better. I would just like honestly just pick Azir, man. Like I don't care. Like his Azir wasn't even that bad. Like the Knight can't play Azir thing is a little bit overblown. The reason why Knight can't play Azir is because every time they pick Azir, it's on red side with 3 losing lanes. For Akali, you can win side lane, and you can maybe get a flank angle because you can go deep enough in enemy jungle with vision that you can maybe get a flank angle. But if you can't win side, you can't set up for any kind of flank angle or do anything, so that's the biggest problem. But I mean, I remember, because like I think part of the reason why I discounted draft was I thought TS would lose early stage playoffs because their drafts were bad. But then as the playoffs went on, like they weren't getting punished for their drafts. So I was like, okay, I guess doing shit drafts doesn't matter. But weirdly, like G2 have had the best drafts of the tournament, and that's actually been super beneficial for them. What about AP guys? So why not, man? Like I'm down. Shen gets scuttled, but the rest of Genji are already here, right? The rest of Genji are already here. They didn't play for midwave. They played to just walk in, and CF can catch this low and pour it in. So they brute force positional advantage on this because they see that BLG are on midwave. So they brute force positional advantage just by Shen getting the crab, Knight not greeting for the extra wave, and because he has no TP, but him being top anyway with no TP is already greeting for an extra wave. And these guys showing on mid, they know they have TF. Oh, he doesn't even have ports, so they're just fine for TF to catch this low and for them to get positional advantage anyway. So they get positional advantage on this Drake. They concede mid. So you're thinking, what's the best play here, right? The best play is for them to like walk in aggressively and cut off TF. That could be good if, one, they know where Corki is. Like, I would say that you want to play, seeing TF on this wave, you want to play into the jungle for catching Corki, because if you catch him in the jungle and you force him to blow package, that's good, right? So you can do that. I would say that would be better. You could push out this bot wave and look for flank. Like, TF showing on mid actually gives you a lot of options. But they stand here because both Maokai and Nami ult will stall enough time for TF to join the fight. Like, that's the biggest thing, is that unless you're specifically getting a pick onto Chovy by standing in the jungle, like, even if you walk into jungle here, Nami and Maokai ult will catch you in any choke, and then TF will rotate, Chovy will rotate, and you'll lose half your HP bar. So yeah, it's the options are like so limited just because the way that Genji correctly identified the fact that they are getting positional advantage almost on every single neutral, and BLG are brute force are trying to play retakes. And you cannot play retakes with this comp because you'll never be here first, because you'll never answer sideway first because of that. And so you'll always be forced to face check, and you'll always be forced to face check into Nami ult and Maokai ult. So let's see here. So they're all standing on this pink. They're all standing here. So who do you want them to engage on? Let's ask that first. Kill Chovy. How do you kill Chovy? What's the exact plan for killing Chovy? Do you just like double ult? Like what's the play? Flash Vialt. Okay, Flash Vialt. Let's say you Flash Vialt. And you catch him. You get him to like half HP. What's the next play? Because Canyon's gonna press ult. Lahens is gonna press ult. What's the next step? They can't be here 30 seconds before because TF will always win side. That's the problem. That's like what I'm arguing. That's why I'm saying this Vex pick is shit. Like TF Corki will always win side here. Look at this. He goes top. They even have Rift Herald here. If Knight gives this, they lose full turret, so he can't be here earlier. He has to go top. He has no TP. He can't go faster. Bing could be here faster, arguably, but he plays for the turret. And stalls Chovy, so that's fine. Like, They decide to push, like, the only reason why Jen's bot lane here is here first is because they seed this wave. They seed this wave and get positional advantage. But there's no way Knight can be here faster. Like, you could maybe argue Bin can be here faster, but if Bin is here faster and Knight is not, then it's, like, the same result. Watch how this fight plays out, okay? Okay, so we're here. We're pulling the Drake. Paze is standing in this position. They walk up. They know that they're all in here now. Can argue maybe they can engage, like maybe Clisalt or something. They use Lucian ult. Elk is low. Now, as soon as Bin walks around the corner, they use Maokai ult. Okay, they use Maokai ult. Corki uses ult. So, Bin is doing his job zoning Chovy. But now, Nami Maokai ult completely split the bot lane from the fight. Carries from the fight. Like, there's so much zone control in this comp. If you're face checking into this comp, it's so hard, no matter what. Like, if you're pressing Vi-R, if you're going in with Bin, like, whoever you go in on, immediately is going to get zoned by it. Like, this was such good Maokai ult positioning, too, because watch this. It starts here, clips Bin and clips this side of the fight, and then completely zones out Night and Elk. They get hit by the Nami Lucian ult. The big thing I think people discount is like how much damage the Lucian ult poke and how safe it is. Like, if you have positional advantage ever as Gen G, then the poke will come out, it will hit people, right? It will get them low, and then they will get zoned by ultis and not be able to follow up. Like, look at how short range they are. They're like, okay, well, these guys have unstoppable engage. Maybe they can kill one person. Knight has no farm because he's getting constantly bullied out of side lanes. Bin can do something, but like Bin Shun together cannot kill anyone, and then Elk can never ever hit in these fights because they're always using Nami ults to zone him, Nami and Maokai ult to zone him and poking him out because Kliss is a useless champ. One good fight where BLG actually play it well, and that's because the fight beforehand, like, this is like how BLG would have to play it, right? Which is not play on these neutral angles. So this is an open fight. The reason this goes well for them is because this is an open fight and they play to bait well and no one dies. So watch this. Shun, first of all, probably doesn't realize he's there. But he blast cones over the wall to safety, so that's fine. No ults used yet. Nothing like this. Paze decides to dash forward. He uses culling once again on Elkanon, so that's normal. Bin steps up here and gets poked out. But the Maokai ult is triggered, like, arguably too late. Doesn't catch anyone. And then they forget about Kalista ult and not Nami ult. So they bait all of these disengage ults out. And then immediately what happens after, other than Shun thinking that the rest of the jungle is warded, isn't warded if he's caught on the ward the first time. Clearly, surely not. Anyway, other than that, the fact that they've acknowledged that the three most important ults on Genji's side, the Nami ult, Lucian ult, and Maokai ult, are all down. Baron is in play. Chovy is just now going to address, like, the sides for some reason haven't been addressed. This is like the most ideal situation for you to take a fight. And they're here on Baron first as well. Shun's flash was a little optimistic. But he does force Paze flash, which is not bad. Oh, he only dashed? I thought he flashed. Never mind. Doesn't matter. Either way, he dashes, but it was a little optimistic as flash. Let's put it that way. Either way. It's even more terrible now. Okay, but now you're in the situation where you've pulled the Baron, they're forced to face check you because you used your TPs, and for some reason Genji haven't fixed their waves, and you forced a mid-fight. You get low here, but Bin is a monster, and you can actually get some stuff done. But despite this being the most favorable fight condition in the world, because they're so behind, it's still losing. The idea is like we dive deep, we kill one person, but they use their disengage ults and zone our backline Elkin on off, and then where's the follow up? Then what do we do? Because we used our one shot cooldowns and the rest of the team is still alive. All right, that's it for this one. I think the reason why, like, I don't want to go too hard on drafts, but I think the thing that was good about Genji's adaptation is they identified how BLG were approaching neutral setups, and they identified that they could take really good advantage of it if they hard pivoted to a disengage comp with winning sides, which they did, and they won the series. So big props to Jen on doing that well. BLG basically continued to try to do the same thing that they always do, which most LPL teams do, which is why a lot of times when LPL wins, it's because the meta extremely favors them. So we will take that to heart, continue on our forward journey, and watch MSI. I will still call BLG to win because I'm not going to flip-flop, but that is how it is at the moment. Hi YouTube, as always, if you liked the video today, then feel free to subscribe to the Twitch channel to see the full discussion. There was a lot of actual argument this time, as you probably tell from the video. Also, we had a pretty good discussion on the LPL's kind of like arms race style of gameplay versus the fact that a lot of top LCK teams historically have played to stabilize weak side, and how that dynamic has worked. So that was a cool one. I did not clip it for the YouTube, so if you want to check that out, feel free to sub to the Twitch, link in the description.